She was a waitress with a crippled leg who fell at the feet of a mafia boss and begged him not to hurt her because she couldn't run. He looked at her and saw his dead sister, who'd had the same injury. What she didn't know, his mercy would make her a target for every enemy who wanted to destroy him. The lunch rush at Bellinate had just ended when the black SUVs pulled up outside. Clara wiped down table 7, her left leg dragging slightly as she moved between chairs. The spinal injury from the car accident 2 years ago had stolen her mobility, her nursing career, and nearly her hope. But she'd learned to work through the pain. Bills didn't pay themselves. "Clara, can you take the wine inventory to the back?" Maria, the new server, asked nervously. The girl was barely 20, still jumpy around customers. "Sure, honey. Just stack them by the..." The front door slammed open. 6 men in dark suits flooded into the restaurant. The air temperature seemed to drop 10 degrees. Clara's hands froze on the wine bottle she'd been holding. She recognized the type instantly. The expensive shoes, the cold eyes, the way they moved like predators who owned every room they entered. The last man through the door made the others look like children. Alessandro Moretti was tall, broad-shouldered, with dark hair swept back and a scar cutting through his left eyebrow. He wore a charcoal suit that probably cost more than Clara made in 6 months. His presence filled the restaurant like smoke. You couldn't see it, but you felt it choking the air from your lungs. "Where's Giordano?" His voice was smooth, almost pleasant. That made it worse. Tony Giordano, the restaurant owner, emerged from the kitchen. His face had gone pale. "Mr. Moretti, please, I just need another week." "You said that 5 weeks ago." Alessandro walked slowly between the tables, his men fanning out behind him. "My patience isn't infinite, Tony." Clara's heart hammered. She'd heard the rumors everyone in this neighborhood had. Alessandro Moretti ran the South Side with an iron fist. Protection money, gambling, construction contracts. Cross him, and you disappeared. Pay him, and you stayed in business. Simple math. But Tony's wife had cancer. Clara knew the restaurant was barely surviving. "Please, Mr. Moretti," Tony's voice cracked. "The medical bills, they're killing us. Sophia's treatments. Your wife's illness isn't my concern. Your debt is." Alessandro stopped at the bar, running his finger along the wood. $12,000, Tony. That's what you owe for 6 months of protection. I can get you 5 by Friday. You'll get me 12 by tonight, or I burn this place down. Maria gasped behind Clara. The wine bottle the girl had been holding slipped from her shaking hands. Everything happened at once. The bottle crashed into the wine rack behind the bar. Glass exploded across the floor. Red wine splattered like blood across the white tiles. Maria stumbled backward, her face twisted in terror. One of Alessandro's men lunged toward her. Clara didn't think. She just moved. "Wait." She didn't mean. Clara threw herself between Maria and the advancing thug, her arms spread wide. "She's new. She's scared. Please don't." Her bad leg buckled. The world tilted sideways. Clara's cane clattered away across the wet floor. She fell hard, her hands catching her weight at the last second. Pain exploded through her spine. She bit back a scream, tears springing to her eyes. Black leather shoes appeared in her vision. Expensive. Shined to perfection. Alessandro Moretti crouched down in front of her. Clara looked up into the coldest eyes she'd ever seen. Dark, calculating, empty. This close, she could see the faint scar across his jaw, the gold cufflinks at his wrists, the complete absence of mercy in his expression. "Please," the word came out as a broken whisper. Tears rolled down her cheeks from pain, from fear, from the humiliation of being broken on the floor. "Please. Don't hurt me. I can't walk. I can't run if you..." Something flickered across Alessandro's face. His hand, which had been reaching toward her, stopped midair. His eyes widened slightly, scanning her face like he was seeing a ghost. His jaw clenched. For 3 seconds, maybe 4, he just stared at her. Then he stood abruptly. "Get her up," he said quietly. One of his men helped Clara to her feet, surprisingly gentle, retrieving her cane. She clutched it with shaking hands, her legs screaming in protest. Alessandro turned to Tony. How much? I'm sorry, Mr. Moretti, I'll have. How much is the total debt? Everything. The back rent, the protection fees. All of it. Tony's mouth opened and closed. 18,000. But Mr. Moretti. Alessandro pulled out his phone. Typed something. Account number. I don't understand.
Your
account number. Tony rattled off the numbers with trembling lips. Clara watched in disbelief as Alessandro made the transfer, then showed Tony the screen. The restaurant owner's legs nearly gave out. It's paid. Alessandro's voice was flat. All of it. We're done here. His men exchanged confused glances. One started to protest. Boss, we can't just. Did I stutter? Alessandro's tone could cut glass. The man fell silent immediately. Alessandro looked at Clara one more time. His expression was unreadable. Anger, confusion, something raw and painful she couldn't identify. Then he turned and walked toward the door. Wait, Clara's voice was barely audible.
Why? He stopped.
Didn't turn around. You remind me of someone, he said quietly. Someone who deserved better than what she got. Then he was gone. The SUVs pulled away from the curb, leaving nothing but scattered glass, spilled wine, and a restaurant full of people who couldn't believe what they'd just witnessed. Tony collapsed into a chair, his phone screen still glowing with the transfer confirmation. Maria was crying. Oh my God, Clara, I'm so sorry. I didn't mean to. It's okay, Clara's legs felt like water. She lowered herself carefully into the nearest chair, her whole body shaking. It's okay. But it wasn't okay. Nothing about this was okay. The most dangerous man in the city had just paid $18,000 because a crippled waitress had begged for mercy. Clara looked down at her trembling hands and wondered what the hell she'd just started. Clara didn't sleep that night. Every time she closed her eyes, she saw Alessandro Moretti's face. The way his expression had shifted from cold calculation to something almost vulnerable when she'd begged him not to hurt her. The way he'd walked away after paying nearly $20,000 like it was pocket change. You remind me of someone. Who? And why did that someone's memory hold enough power to change a devil's mind? By 8 a.m., her phone was buzzing nonstop. Clara, you won't believe what people are saying. Her brother Daniel's voice was tight with worry. Half the neighborhood thinks you're sleeping with a mob boss. The other half thinks you're his new. I don't know, his protected something. You need to stay away from that restaurant. Stay away from him. Danny, I didn't. I know what you didn't do. But it doesn't matter what's true. It matters what people think. He paused. I'm coming over tonight. We need to talk. The line went dead. Clara arrived at Bellinate at 10 a.m. for her shift. The moment she walked through the door, the kitchen went silent. Tony rushed over, his eyes red-rimmed. Clara, thank God. I didn't know if you'd come back after yesterday. Why wouldn't I? Because. He gestured helplessly around the restaurant. Because of what happened. Because of him. Maria appeared from the back, her expression strange. Everyone's talking about it, Clara. My cousin called me this morning. He works at Sal's Deli on 4th Street. He said Alessandro Moretti never, and I mean never, lets anyone off. Ever. Not in 15 years. So, why did he let us off? David, the line cook, leaned against the doorframe. His tone wasn't friendly. Why'd he pay our debt, Clara? What did you do? I didn't do anything. You must have done something. David's eyes narrowed. Men like that don't just hand out charity. What did you promise him? David. Tony snapped. That's enough. Is it? David crossed his arms. Because now everyone knows this place is connected to Moretti. You think that's good for business, Tony? You think our regular customers want to eat somewhere the Mafia owns? He doesn't own us. Doesn't he? David laughed bitterly. He paid our debt. That means we owe him. And somehow, that debt runs through her. He pointed at Clara. So, yeah, I want to know what she promised. Get back to work, Tony said firmly. But Clara could see the question in his eyes too. The doubt. The lunch shift was torture. Some of the staff treated her like she was made of glass. Overly polite, nervous, like she might call down Moretti's wrath if they looked at her wrong. Others, like David, shot her dark looks and whispered when she passed. Maria apologized 17 times. This is my fault. If I hadn't dropped that bottle. It's not your fault, Clara said for the 18th time. But even Maria looked at her differently now. Like Clara was something foreign, something dangerous. At 2 p.m., a regular customer, Mrs. Chun, who came in every Tuesday for minestrone, sat at Clara's section. She ordered quietly, barely making eye contact. When Clara brought the soup, Mrs. Chun leaned in close. My husband says we shouldn't come here anymore, she whispered. He says Moretti's protection means trouble. Other families might make moves. She pressed $20 into Clara's hand. I like you, honey, but we can't come back. I'm sorry. She left half her soup uneaten. Across the city, in a penthouse office overlooking the harbor, Alessandro Moretti was having his own difficult morning. You paid a restaurant's protection debt, Marco, his oldest lieutenant, stood with his arms crossed. $18,000. Out of your own pocket. I'm aware of what I did. Are you? Marco's voice rose. Because the families are talking, Alessandro. Russo's people think you're going soft. The Calabrese crew is asking if we're still collecting, or if all they need is a sob story and a pretty girl. Alessandro's jaw tightened. Watch your tone. I'm watching my investment, Marco leaned forward. We built this empire on fear and respect. You show mercy to one restaurant, and suddenly everyone thinks they can negotiate. They think they can beg their way out. No one will think that. They already do. Marco slammed his hand on the desk. Polly got a call this morning from that hardware store on Mitchell Street. They want an extension. Said if you can forgive Giordano's debt, surely you can give them more time.
You see?
It's starting. Alessandro stood slowly. When he spoke, his voice was ice. Tell Polly that Giordano was a special circumstance. Tell Mitchell Street they pay by Friday, or they lose the store. And tell everyone else that my mercy isn't a policy. It's an exception. One exception. Are we clear? Marco hesitated. What was so special about that circumstance? Alessandro turned to the window, his reflection ghost-like in the glass. That's not your concern. It is if it makes you vulnerable. Get out, boss. Get out. After Marco left, Alessandro pulled out his phone. He scrolled to a photo he kept in a locked folder. His sister, Lucia, 15 years old, smiling despite the wheelchair, despite the spinal injury that had stolen her ability to walk. She'd been dead for 12 years. Drunk driver, wrong place, wrong time. He'd killed the driver, of course. Slowly, but it hadn't brought her back. Yesterday, when that waitress had fallen at his feet, whispered those words, I can't walk, it had been like Lucia's ghost had materialized in front of him. The same dark hair, the same desperate courage in her eyes, the same broken body trying to protect someone else. He'd paid that debt for Lucia, not for Clara. But even as he thought it, he knew it was a lie. Alessandro made a call. Vinny, I need background on someone. Clara, I need her last name. Who is this? The waitress from yesterday. Bellinate. Find out everything. He hung up and stared at the city below. One exception, he'd told Marco. But Alessandro had this sinking feeling that this exception was going to cost him more than $18,000. 3 days after the incident, Alessandro Moretti walked back into Bellinate. Clara was refilling the salt shakers when the door opened. She looked up and froze. Her hands locked around the glass shaker so tightly, she heard it crack. He wasn't alone. 2 men flanked him, one she recognized from before, another new face with cold eyes and a gun-shaped bulge under his jacket. But it was Alessandro who commanded the room. He wore a navy suit today, no tie, the top button undone. Somehow that made him look more dangerous, not less. Mr. Moretti, Tony appeared from the kitchen, his voice strangled. We weren't expecting. I'm here to check the accounts. Alessandro's tone was businesslike. Make sure the books are clean now that your debt's settled. The accounts are fine, I promise. I'll be the judge of that. Alessandro's eyes swept the restaurant and landed on Clara. Something flickered in his expression. I'll wait while you get the paperwork. That booth, he pointed to the corner table, the one with a clear view of the entire restaurant. Tony practically ran to his office. Alessandro slid into the booth. His men took positions near the door and the kitchen's strategic points, Clara realized. They could see every entrance, every exit. This wasn't about checking accounts. This was a show of ownership. Clara tried to focus on her work, but her hands trembled as she arranged menus. She could feel his eyes on her, watching,
Studying.
Maria approached her, whispering urgently. He keeps looking at you. Clara, what's going on? I don't know. Should I take that section? No, Clara didn't know why she said it. I'll handle it. She picked up a water pitcher and walked to his table. Her cane clicked against the tile with each step. The sound felt too loud in the hushed restaurant. Water. Her voice came out steadier than she felt. Please, his eyes never left her face. She poured carefully, acutely aware of how close his hand was to hers. Would you like to see a menu? I'm not here for the food. Clara's heart hammered. Then what are you here for? Sit down. I'm working.
Seat.
Down, not a request. Clara glanced at Tony's office door, still closed. She lowered herself into the opposite seat, gripping her cane. Mr. Moretti, if this is about your injury, he interrupted. How did it happen? The question caught her off guard. Car accident. 2 years ago. Drunk driver? Texting driver. She ran a red light, hit my car broadside. Clara's throat tightened at the memory. I was a nurse. Night shift at County General. I was driving home. Alessandro's jaw clenched. Spinal damage. L4, L5 compression fracture. The surgery helped, but she gestured to her cane. This is as good as it gets. You were a nurse. I am a nurse. Just not a practicing one. Can't stand for 12-hour shifts anymore. Bitterness crept into her voice. Lost my career, my apartment, my savings on medical bills. But at least I'm alive, right? Where's your family? The personal questions were making her uncomfortable. Why does that matter? Answer the question, Clara. Hearing her name in his voice sent a chill down her spine. Just my brother, Daniel. Our parents died when we were young. Danny raised me. She met his eyes. Now it's my turn. Why are you asking me this? Alessandro leaned back, his expression unreadable. You protected that girl. The one who dropped the wine. You knew what my men might do, and you got between them anyway. She was terrified. You could barely stand. You were in pain. But you still tried to shield her. His voice dropped lower. Why? Because she's 20 years old and scared, and it was an accident. Clara's own voice rose. Because someone had to. Because that's what you do when someone's in trouble. You help them. Even if you're broken yourself. Especially then. Silence stretched between them. My sister had a spinal injury, Alessandro said quietly. Born with it. She could never walk without crutches. People stared at her, pitied her, treated her like she was less. His hands curled into fists on the table. But she was stronger than anyone I ever knew. Braver. She'd throw herself in front of danger if it meant protecting someone weaker. Clara's chest tightened. What happened to her?
She died.
12 years ago. His eyes held an ocean of pain. She was crossing the street. Drunk driver hit her. She never had a chance to run.
I'm sorry.
Don't be sorry. Be alive, he stood abruptly. Tony! The restaurant owner rushed out, clutching account ledgers. Yes, Mr. Moretti? Forget the books. I've seen what I needed to see. Alessandro pulled out his wallet, extracted several bills, dropped them on the table. Easily $300. This restaurant is under permanent protection now.
No chatty.
My men will check in weekly. Anyone gives you trouble, customers, suppliers, other families, you call this number. He handed Tony a business card. Tony's mouth fell open. Mr. Moretti, I can't. This is too generous. It's not generosity. It's business, but Alessandro's eyes were on Clara when he said it. Consider it an investment. His men exchanged glances. One of them, the cold-eyed one, looked openly suspicious. Alessandro walked toward the door, then paused beside Clara's table. He didn't look at her, but spoke loud enough for only her to hear. The Physical Therapy Center on Madison Street. They're the best in the city. I've made arrangements for an evaluation. No cost. I can't accept. You haven't accepted anything. I've simply made a phone call. He finally turned to face her. They'll call you tomorrow. What you do with that call is your choice. Why are you doing this? For a moment, something raw and honest crossed his face. Because watching you fall reminded me that I couldn't save her. But maybe he stopped himself. The call comes tomorrow, 9 a.m. Then he was gone, his men trailing behind him like shadows. The restaurant erupted in whispers the moment the door closed. Clara sat frozen in the booth, staring at the $300 on the table, her mind reeling. Daniel was going to lose his mind. The conference room in Alessandro's headquarters was thick with cigar smoke and tension. 8 men sat around the table, his most trusted lieutenants, the ones who'd built this empire with blood and bullets. Marco stood at the head, arms crossed, his face carved from stone. Beside him sat Rocco Dinelli, a younger lieutenant with ambition burning in his eyes. The others watched Alessandro with varying degrees of concern. We need to talk about the restaurant, Marco said flatly. Alessandro poured himself a scotch. What about it? What about it? Rocco leaned forward. Boss, you paid someone's debt. You put a civilian business under permanent free protection. In 3 days, we've had 7 other establishments ask for special consideration like Bellinate got. And what did you tell them? We told them to pay up or close down, Marco said. But it's getting harder to enforce when everyone's heard you went soft for some waitress with a sob story. Alessandro's hand tightened on his glass. Watch your mouth. We're watching our business collapse, Rocco interjected. His tone was respectful, but his eyes held challenge. The Calabrese family is circling. Russo's crew is making noise. They smell weakness, boss. They think you're losing your edge. Let them think what they want. We can't afford that luxury. Marco slammed his fist on the table. This organization runs on fear and respect. You showed mercy, public, visible mercy. That makes you look weak. It makes us look weak. I made one exception. Exceptions are cracks, Rocco interrupted. And cracks spread. Today it's one restaurant. Tomorrow someone else tries to bargain with tears and excuses. Where does it end? Silence fell over the room. Vinny, the oldest lieutenant, cleared his throat. Boss, we're not questioning your judgment. But the streets are talking. Your enemies are watching. Some of us think, he hesitated. Some think maybe we should correct the mistake. Alessandro's eyes turned to ice. Corrected how? The restaurant. Vinny wouldn't meet his gaze. Make it look like we changed our minds. Send a message that mercy was temporary. Maybe rough up the owner, trash the place a little.
No.
Boss. I said no. Alessandro stood slowly. The temperature in the room dropped. That restaurant stays protected. Anyone who touches it answers to me personally. Are we clear? Marco's jaw clenched. And the waitress? The one you're paying medical bills for? That's my business. It becomes our business when it affects operations, Rocco said smoothly. Boss, we respect you. We've followed you for years. But this woman, whoever she is, she's becoming a liability. The families are already asking questions. How long before someone decides to use her to get to you? Then we protect her. Why? The question came from Tony Greco, a quiet lieutenant who rarely spoke. Boss, why are you doing this? What's so special about this woman that you'd risk everything? Alessandro's hand moved to his inside pocket, where he kept Lucia's photo. He didn't pull it out. These men knew about his sister. They'd attended her funeral, paid respects. But they didn't understand. They'd never understand. She reminds me of someone I failed, he said quietly. Someone I couldn't save. This time, I can. This time it'll get you killed, Marco said. Or worse, it'll get us all killed. The other families see compassion as weakness. They'll move against us. Let them try. Rocco exchanged a glance with Marco. Boss, maybe you need some distance from this situation. Let us handle the restaurant, the woman. You've got bigger concerns, the shipment next week, the meeting with the New York families. I'll handle my own concerns. Alessandro drained his scotch. This conversation is over. The restaurant stays protected. The woman stays safe. Anyone who has a problem with that can walk out that door right now. No one moved. But the looks they exchanged said everything. Good, Alessandro headed for the door. Marco, I want security doubled on my personal assets. Rocco, coordinate with our people in the precincts. I want to know if anyone's been asking questions about Bellinate or anyone associated with it. On it, boss, Rocco said. Too quickly. Too eagerly. After Alessandro left, the room remained silent for a full minute. He's compromised, Rocco said finally.
You all see it.
One woman, and suddenly 15 years of reputation, means nothing. He's the boss, Vinny said cautiously. We follow orders. Even when those orders sink the ship? Rocco stood, pacing. My father helped build this organization. I've bled for it. I'm not watching it fall apart because Alessandro caught feelings for some crippled waitress. Marco's eyes narrowed. What are you suggesting? I'm suggesting we protect him from himself. Rocco lowered his voice. The Calabrese family reached out to me yesterday. Just a feeler. They wanted to know if the rumors were true, if Alessandro's really gone soft. I told them no, obviously. Obviously, Marco repeated, his tone flat. But if the boss keeps this up, they won't need rumors. They'll see it themselves. Rocco leaned on the table. Maybe we make our own move. Something small. Something that reminds Alessandro why mercy is dangerous. Show him what happens when you leave doors open. You're talking about going behind his back, Tony said. I'm talking about saving this family. Rocco's eyes gleamed. All we need is the right opportunity, the right pressure point, and he'll snap back to the man we need him to be. Marco was quiet for a long moment. I'm not betraying Alessandro. I'm not asking you to. I'm asking you to trust that I have his best interests at heart, Rocco smiled. This woman is a weakness. Weaknesses can be removed. If Alessandro finds out, he won't. Not until it's done, and he's thanking us for it. Rocco straightened his jacket. Just keep doing your jobs. I'll handle the rest. He left the room, already pulling out his phone. In the hallway, he scrolled to a contact labeled personal. He'd gotten the number 2 days ago from a bartender who worked Calabrese territory. The boss has a blind spot, he typed. Might be worth exploring. The reply came within seconds. Tell us more. Rocco smiled and kept walking. Behind him, through the closed door, Marco stared at the empty seat where Alessandro had Saturday. God help us all, he muttered. The envelope arrived at Clara's apartment on Thursday morning. It was thick, expensive paper, delivered by courier. No return address. Inside was a letter from Madison Street Physical Therapy Center, the most prestigious rehab facility in the city, the kind of place where athletes and celebrities recovered from career-ending injuries. Dear Ms. Rossi, you have been selected for our comprehensive spinal rehabilitation program. The evaluation, treatment plan, and all associated costs have been covered by a private benefactor. Your first appointment is scheduled for Monday, 9 a.m. Please call to confirm. Clara read it 3 times, her hands shaking. This was real. This was actually happening. For 2 years, she'd accepted that her cane was permanent, that the constant pain was her new normal, that watching other nurses rush past while she limped through the grocery store was just how life would be now. She'd made peace with it, or told herself she had. But this letter cracked that peace wide open. What if she could walk without pain? What if she could stand for a full shift again? What if she could get her life back? She was reaching for her phone when her apartment door burst open. Daniel stormed in, his face flushed with anger. He was still in his construction company uniform, cement dust on his jeans. Tell me it's not true. Clara's heart sank. Danny, tell me you didn't accept help from a goddamn mobster. He threw a newspaper on her kitchen table. The local section had a small article. Moretti organization extends protection to local restaurant. No mention of Clara by name, but anyone in the neighborhood could connect the dots. I didn't accept anything yet. Yet. Daniel's voice rose. Clara, are you insane? You know who Alessandro Moretti is? What he does? He paid Tony's debt. Nothing is free with these people. Daniel paced her tiny living room like a caged animal. You think he dropped 18 grand out of the goodness of his heart? Men like that don't have hearts. They have angles. Investments. And right now, little sister, you're his investment. He lost someone. His sister. She had the same injury I do. I don't care if she had the same face. Daniel spun to face her. This is the Mafia, Clara. They're not your friends. They're predators. And you just painted a target on your back by accepting their charity. I haven't accepted. The medical center called me, his voice cracked. I'm your emergency contact, remember? They wanted to confirm your appointment Monday. Said everything's been taken care of. Do you understand what that means?
You're in his debt now.
And Mafia debts don't get paid with money. Clara stood, gripping her cane. What was I supposed to do? Say no to the first real chance I've had in 2 years. Yes. Easy for you to say. The words erupted from somewhere deep and wounded. You're not the one who can't walk right. You're not the one who lost everything because some idiot couldn't put down her phone for 5 seconds. You don't live with this pain every single day. Daniel's face softened. Clara. I was a good nurse, Danny. I helped people. I saved lives. And now I can barely carry a tray of drinks without wanting to cry. Tears burned her eyes. This is my chance. Maybe my only chance. And you want me to throw it away because the money came from the wrong person? I want you to stay alive. Daniel's voice dropped to almost a whisper. I want you to stay safe. And taking favors from Alessandro Moretti is the opposite of safe. Maybe I'm tired of being safe. Clara wiped her eyes roughly. Maybe I'm tired of being careful and grateful and settling for scraps. He's offering me hope, Danny. When's the last time anyone offered me that? Hope with strings attached. All hope has strings. She was yelling now, months of frustration pouring out. You think I don't know there's a catch? You think I'm stupid? But at least it's a chance. At least it's something other than this. She gestured at her cane, her small apartment, the life she'd been trapped in. Daniel stared at her for a long moment. Then he sank onto her couch, his head in his hands. You have no idea what you're getting into. Something in his tone made Clara pause. What does that mean? Nothing. Danny. It means these people are dangerous in ways you can't imagine. He looked up at her, and she was shocked to see fear in his eyes. Real, bone-deep fear. Promise me something. Promise me you'll be careful. Promise me if anything feels wrong, if he asks you for anything, you'll walk away. I promise. I mean it, Clara. These men, they seem charming at first. They act like they're helping. But it's always a trap. Always. His voice was so certain, so specific, that Clara wondered what he wasn't telling her. How would you know? Daniel stood abruptly. Because I'm not an idiot. Because I've lived in this neighborhood my whole life. He headed for the door, then stopped. Call me after the appointment Monday. I want to know you're okay. I will. After he left, Clara picked up the letter again. Her first appointment was in 4 days. She called the number, her heart pounding. Madison Street Physical Therapy. How can I help you? This is Clara Rossi. I'm calling to confirm my appointment Monday at 9-inch. Wonderful, Ms. Rossi. We'll see you then. And may I say, you're very fortunate. Dr. Chen doesn't usually take new patients, but your benefactor was quite insistent on the best care possible. Your benefactor. Not a benefactor.
Your.
Like she belonged to him already. Clara hung up and stared at her reflection in the darkened TV screen. A woman with tired eyes and a cane. A woman who'd been offered a miracle by the devil himself. "What am I doing?" she whispered to her reflection. But she already knew the answer. She was accepting. Because hope, even dangerous hope, was better than slowly dying inside. She'd just have to pray the price wasn't more than she could pay. Outside her apartment, in a car parked half a block down, one of Alessandro's men lowered his camera. He'd photographed Daniel's arrival and departure, captured the argument through the thin walls with a directional microphone. He dialed his boss. "Sir, the brother's a problem. He's trying to talk her out of it." Alessandro's voice was cold. "Let him try. But if he interferes further, I want to know about it immediately." "Understood." The car pulled away into the night, leaving Clara alone with her hope and her fears. Alessandro sat in his office at 2 a.m., unable to sleep. The city sprawled below him, a grid of lights and shadows. Somewhere out there, Clara Rossi was probably awake too, staring at that letter, wrestling with the same questions he'd been asking himself for 3 days. Why was he doing this? It wasn't just about Lucia anymore. He'd used that excuse with his men, with himself. But the truth was more complicated. When Clara had looked up at him from the floor, terrified and vulnerable, yet still trying to protect someone else, something inside him had shifted. Something he'd thought died with his sister. He picked up his phone and called Vinny. "Boss." Vinny's voice was groggy. "It's 2 in the morning. I need a complete background check. Clara Rossi, the waitress from Bella Notte." Silence. Then, "Boss, is that wise?" Getting more involved. "I didn't ask for advice. I asked for information." Alessandro's tone left no room for argument. "Everything. Family, employment history, medical records, financial situation. I want to know who she is. You want me to dig into her brother too?" "Daniel Rossi."
Alessandro paused.
He hadn't mentioned a brother. "You know him." Another pause, longer this time.
"Boss."
"You're not going to like this." "Tell me. Let me pull the file. I'll call you back in 10-inch. Alessandro waited, his instincts screaming that whatever was coming would change everything. 7 minutes later, his phone rang. "Daniel Rossi," Vinny said without preamble. "Age 32. Currently works construction for Hendrix Company. But 8 years ago, he worked for us." Alessandro sat forward. "Doing what?" "Low-level runner. Pickups, deliveries, basic enforcement." He was young, maybe 24. Worked under Marco's crew for about 18 months. "I don't remember him." "You wouldn't. He was nobody. Just another kid trying to make quick money." Vinny's voice hardened. "Until he wasn't." "What did he do?" "He got greedy. Started selling information to the Calabrese family, shipment schedules, meeting locations, who was paying protection and who wasn't. We didn't catch it for months. Cost us 3 good men and nearly $250,000 in lost product." Alessandro's blood went cold. "When?" 7 years ago. Summer of 2018. Marco wanted him dead. We had a kill order ready." Vinny paused. "But then he disappeared. Went underground. By the time we found him again, his parents had just died in a house fire. He had a teenage sister to raise, Clara. She was only 16-inch. The pieces clicked together with brutal clarity. Marco decided killing him would leave the girl alone," Vinny continued. "She was innocent, just a kid. So we let it go. Told Rossi if he ever stepped foot in our territory again, if he ever came near our business, the protection for his sister ended. He's kept his distance ever since." Alessandro stared at the city lights, his mind racing. "Does he know I'm the one helping her? If he doesn't, he will soon." "The whole neighborhood's talking." Vinny's voice dropped. "Boss, this changes things. You're protecting the sister of a man who betrayed us. If the other families find out, if Marco finds out." "Marco knows about Rossi's betrayal. He was the one who caught him. He's the one who wanted him dead. But he doesn't know Rossi is Clara's brother." "Not yet. The last name's common enough. But if he digs," Vinny trailed off. "What do you want me to do?" Alessandro stood, walking to the window. Down below, the city slept, unaware of the bomb that had just been dropped in his lap. The smart move was to cut ties. Walk away from Clara, let the medical appointment cancel, pretend the last few days had never happened. Daniel Rossi was a traitor. His sister, by extension, was tainted by that betrayal. In Alessandro's world, that was enough for a death sentence. But Clara didn't know. She'd been 16 when her brother made his mistakes. She'd lost her parents, her health, her career. And now she was struggling to survive while her brother, the brother who'd raised her, protected her, carried the weight of his sins in silence. "You still there, boss?" "Did Clara know?" Alessandro asked. "About her brother's involvement with us?" "No indication of it. She was in high school when it went down, focused on getting into nursing school. By all accounts, Daniel kept that life completely separate from her. And after? When he left, he told her he was getting out of construction work, going legitimate. She never questioned it." Vinny paused. "Boss, she's innocent in this." "But innocent doesn't matter if the wrong people find out." Alessandro's jaw clenched. The irony was almost poetic. He'd paid a debt to protect a woman who reminded him of his sister, only to discover she was the sister of a man who'd betrayed him. A man he should have killed years ago. "Keep this quiet," Alessandro said finally. "No one else knows about the connection. Not Marco, not Rocco, nobody. You're still going forward with the medical treatment?" "Yes, boss." "She's not responsible for her brother's mistakes." Alessandro's voice was steel. "And Daniel kept his end of the bargain. He stayed away. Maybe that's penance enough. Or maybe it's a setup," Vinny said carefully. "Maybe he sent her into that restaurant knowing you'd be there. Maybe this whole thing is a play." Alessandro had considered that. But he'd seen Clara's face when she fell, heard the genuine terror in her voice. No one was that good an actor. "It's not a setup. She doesn't know what her brother did. And she's not going to." Alessandro turned from the window. "Continue the background check. I want to know everything about her. But the brother connection stays buried." "Understood." "Understood. And if Daniel makes a move, then we deal with it. But until then, Clara Rossi is under my protection. Anyone who touches her answers to me." After hanging up, Alessandro pulled out Lucia's photo again. His sister smiled up at him, frozen at 15, forever innocent. "What would you do?" he whispered to the image. But he knew the answer. Lucia had always believed in second chances, in judging people by their own actions, not their family's sins. She believed in forgiveness. It had gotten her killed. Alessandro tucked the photo away and poured another scotch. He was protecting the sister of a traitor. If his men found out, it would look like weakness or insanity. If his enemies found out, they'd use it against him. If Daniel found out, Alessandro knew, the fragile peace between them would shatter. But somehow, impossibly, Alessandro didn't care. Clara Rossi had reminded him what it felt like to want to save someone. And for the first time in 12 years, that felt more important than revenge. Even if it destroyed him. Monday morning, Clara arrived at Madison Street Physical Therapy Center 15 minutes early. The building was sleek glass and chrome, the kind of place that screamed money. The waiting room had leather chairs, abstract art on the walls, and a coffee bar with an actual barista. This wasn't a clinic. This was a spa for broken bodies. "Ms. Rossi?" A woman in pristine white scrubs approached with a warm smile.
"I'm Dr. Chen."
"Welcome." The evaluation took 2 hours. X-rays, mobility tests, strength assessments. Dr. Chen was thorough, professional, and optimistic in a way Clara's previous doctors hadn't been. "Your bone structure has healed well," Dr. Chen explained, pointing to the scans. "The issue is muscular compensation and nerve inflammation. With aggressive physical therapy, targeted exercises, and possibly a minor corrective procedure, we could see significant improvement. I'd estimate 60 to 70% mobility restoration." Clara's throat tightened. "Really? Really? It won't be easy, and it won't be quick. But yes, Ms. Rossi, I believe we can help you walk without assistance." Clara left the clinic in a daze, clutching a treatment plan and a schedule for 3 sessions per week. Hope felt dangerous and wonderful all at once. She didn't notice the man in the gray sedan across the street, or the camera lens pointed at her through the tinted window. 3 blocks away, in a restaurant that fronted for Calabrese family operations, Tommy the Knife Calabrese studied the photographs his man had just delivered. That's her? Tommy flicked through the images. Clara entering the clinic, Clara leaving with a folder, Clara struggling to hail a cab with her cane. Doesn't look like much. She's nothing, his lieutenant Frankie confirmed. Waitress. No criminal record.
No connections.
But Moretti's paying for her medical treatment. Top-tier facility, best doctors. Word is he's got men watching her apartment. Tommy leaned back, a slow smile spreading. Alessandro Moretti, the man who killed 3 people for looking at him wrong, is playing guardian angel to a crippled waitress. Hell must have frozen over. Makes him vulnerable, Frankie said. We could grab her, send a message. No, Tommy's eyes gleamed. Not yet. First, we watch. We learn. We figure out exactly how deep this goes. Then we decide how to use it. He tapped one photograph, Clara's face, unguarded and hopeful. Everyone has a weakness, Frankie. Even the devil. That evening, Alessandro appeared at Bellinate just as the dinner rush ended. Clara was wiping down tables when she saw him. He was alone this time, no bodyguards, dressed more casually in dark slacks and a black button-down. Somehow that made him more intimidating, not less. We're closed, she said, though her heart hammered. I know. I told Tony to lock up and leave. We need to talk. Clara glanced toward the kitchen. It was empty. She was alone with the most dangerous man in the city. About what? How was your appointment?
So he knew she'd gone. Of course he did.
It went well. Dr. Chen thinks. She stopped. Why are you really here? Alessandro moved closer. Not threatening, just present. Because I wanted to see if you'd actually go. If you'd accept the help. Why wouldn't I? Because your brother told you not to. He saw her expression shift. I have people watching out for you, Clara. For your safety. That includes knowing who visits your apartment and what gets said through thin walls. Anger flared in her chest. You're spying on me? I'm protecting you. From what? From people who might see you as a way to get to me. His voice was matter-of-fact, like he was discussing the weather. You became a person of interest the moment I paid that debt. Whether you like it or not, you're connected to me now. That puts you in danger. Clara's legs suddenly felt weak. She lowered herself into a chair. I didn't ask for this. I know. Alessandro sat across from her, and for the first time, she saw something human in his eyes. Something tired and sad. My sister didn't ask for it either. Didn't ask to be born with a broken spine. Didn't ask for people to stare or pity her. But she made the best of what she had, he paused. Her name was Lucia. Clara watched him carefully. You loved her. She was the only good thing in my family. Our father was violent. Our mother was weak. But Lucia, a faint smile crossed his face. She had this laugh. This ridiculous, snorting laugh that she hated. But it was so genuine, so joyful. She could barely walk, but she'd insist on dancing at weddings. She'd stumble, fall, laugh it off, and keep going. How old was she? 15 when she died. A drunk driver, his hands curled into fists on the table. She was crossing the street to buy flowers for her mother's birthday. The driver ran a red light. She never even saw it coming. Clara's chest ached. That's why when I fell. You looked like her. Same dark hair. Same determination in your eyes. Same stubborn courage. Alessandro met her gaze. When you tried to protect that girl, even though you were hurt, even though you were terrified, that's exactly what Lucia would have done. Silence stretched between them, heavy with things unsaid. I'm not your sister, Clara said softly. I know. And I can't be your second chance at saving her. I know that too. Alessandro leaned forward. But maybe you can be your own second chance. Maybe you can take what I'm offering and rebuild your life. Not for me. For you. Clara studied his face, the sharp angles, the scar through his eyebrow. the weight of violence and grief he carried. He was a monster. Everyone said so. But monsters didn't talk about their sisters with tears in their eyes. "Why do you do it?" she asked suddenly. "The violence. The protection rackets. All of it. Because it's all I know. Because my father taught me that power is the only thing that matters," he smiled bitterly. "And because good men die young. I decided a long time ago to be the man others fear, instead of the man who gets destroyed." "Is that what your sister would have wanted?" The question hit him like a physical blow. He stood abruptly. "I should go."
Alessandro.
He stopped, his name and her voice freezing him in place. "Thank you," Clara said quietly. "For the treatment. For protecting the restaurant. For seeing me when you could have just walked past." He turned back, and the look in his eyes made her breath catch. It wasn't cold anymore. It was raw and complicated and dangerous in an entirely different way. "Be careful, Clara," his voice was low. "People are watching you now. Don't go anywhere alone. Don't trust strangers. And if anything feels wrong, anything, you call me." He placed a card on the table with a phone number. Day or night. Then he was gone, leaving her alone with the ghost of his sister and the weight of his protection. Outside, in the gray sedan parked down the block, Frankie took another photograph. The boss was going to love this. Alessandro was reviewing shipping manifests when Marco burst into his office without knocking. "We have a problem." Marco's face was grim. He threw a manila folder on the desk. "Big one." Alessandro opened it. Inside were surveillance photos: Clara leaving her apartment, Clara at the clinic, Clara at Bellinate. Different angles, different days. Professional quality. His blood turned to ice. "Where did you get these?" "One of our guys in the Calabrese crew.
Tommy's planning something.
He's had men on the Waitress for 3 days now." "How many men?" "At least 4 that we've identified. Could be more." Marco pulled out another photo. This one showed Clara and Alessandro talking inside Bellinate through the window. "They've got documentation of your visits. They're building a file." Alessandro's jaw clenched so hard it ached. "What's the play?" "They're going to grab her. Use her as leverage or humiliation. Maybe both. Tommy wants to prove you're weak, that emotions make you sloppy." Marco's voice dropped. "And boss, he's not wrong. You've been visiting her, paying her medical bills. The whole city knows she's your soft spot now. When?"
"Soon.
"Maybe this week." Marco sat down heavily. "There's more. Rocco's been making calls." Alessandro's eyes snapped up. "What kind of calls?" "To the Calabrese family."
To some of Russo's people. He's been
testing the waters. Seeing who'd be interested in new leadership if you keep making questionable decisions." Betrayal tasted like copper in Alessandro's mouth. "You have proof?" "Phone records. Witness statements." "Yeah, I've got proof." Marco pulled out another folder. "I was going to come to you about Rocco first, but then this Clara situation escalated," and he stopped. "Boss, some of the men agree with him." "Which men?" "Does it matter? The point is, your protection of this woman is causing fractures. They see it as weakness. They think you've lost your edge." Marco leaned forward. "There's a simple solution here. You let the Calabrese family make their move. Let them grab her. Then you respond with overwhelming force. You kill everyone involved, get the girl back, and you prove you're still the same ruthless bastard you've always been." Alessandro stared at him. "You want me to use Clara as bait. I want you to turn a liability into a power move. You save her. You look strong doing it. Everyone remembers why they fear you." Marco's voice hardened. "Or you keep coddling her, keep making exceptions, and watch your empire crumble while Tommy Calabrese and your own lieutenant plot your downfall. Get out, boss. Get out." Alessandro's voice was deadly quiet. "Before I do something we'll both regret."
Marcos too slowly.
At the door, he paused. "You're choosing her over us. You know that, right? Over everyone who's bled for you, killed for you, built this empire with you. You're throwing it away for a woman you've known for a week." I said get out. After Marco left, Alessandro made 3 calls. The first was to Vinny. "I want 4 men on Clara Rossi. 2 undercover, following her everywhere she goes. 2 stationed outside her apartment building, alternating shifts. Best men we have. Boss, that's a lot of manpower. I don't care. Make it happen. And Vinny, I want updates every 4 hours. Where she goes, who she talks to, if anyone suspicious comes within 50 feet of her. Understood. The second call was to his arms dealer. I need a clean car. Bulletproof, tinted windows, GPS tracker. Have it delivered to, he gave Clara's address. And a driver. Someone she won't recognize as one of ours. The third call was to Clara. She answered on the second ring. Hello. It's Alessandro. Silence. Then, how did you get my number? I get everything I need, he softened his tone. Listen to me carefully. For the next few days, I need you to be extra cautious. Don't go anywhere alone. Don't take unfamiliar routes. Don't talk to strangers. You're scaring me. Good.
You should be scared, he paused.
There are people who want to hurt you to get to me. I have men protecting you, but you need to stay alert. Maybe I should just stop the treatments. Stop coming to the restaurant. If I'm putting people in danger. No, the word came out harder than he intended. You keep living your life. You keep going to your appointments. I'll handle the rest. Alessandro, I can't. Clara, his voice dropped. I've done terrible things. Hurt people. Destroyed lives. But I won't let anyone hurt you. Not while I'm breathing. Do you understand? Another silence, longer this time. Why do you care so much? Because when she smiled, something in his chest loosened. Because when she talked about nursing, her eyes lit up with a passion he'd forgotten existed. Because she'd looked at him like he was human, not a monster, and that single look had cracked something open inside him that he'd kept locked away for years. Because I failed Lucia, he said instead. And I won't fail again. After hanging up, Alessandro stood at his window, watching the city. His men were questioning him. His lieutenant was plotting against him. His enemies were circling. And at the center of it all was a woman with a cane and kind eyes who'd somehow become the most important thing in his world. Marco was right. He was choosing her. Over the empire. Over the loyalty. Over everything he'd built. And the terrifying part was, he'd make the same choice again. His phone buzzed. Vinny. Guards in position. She's home safe. Alessandro released a breath he didn't know he'd been holding. Across town, in a basement that smelled of mold and violence, Rocco met with Tommy Calabrese. He's doubled her security, Rocco said, sliding photos across the table. For men minimum. Probably more we haven't spotted. Tommy grinned. Perfect. That means she matters. The more he protects her, the more valuable she becomes. He lit a cigar. We'll need to be smart about this. I can't just grab her off the street now. I might have a way. Rocco pulled out his phone. Her brother. Daniel Rossi. He's been trying to get her to cut ties with Alessandro. What if we reach out to him? Convince him we can help get his sister to safety. He'd trust you. He's desperate and stupid. Yeah, he'd trust me, Rocco smiled. We use the brother to get the sister. Alessandro comes running. And then he drew his finger across his throat. Tommy laughed. I like it. Make the call. In her apartment, Clara locked her door and leaned against it, her heart pounding. She'd noticed the men watching her building. Noticed the car that had followed her home from the clinic. She wasn't stupid. This was real. The danger was real. And somewhere in the darkness, Alessandro Moretti was standing between her and people who wanted to hurt her. She should run. She should disappear. She should never have accepted his help. But when she closed her eyes, she saw his face when he talked about Lucia. Saw the grief and guilt he carried like weights around his neck. He was trying to save her because he couldn't save his sister. And God help her, she was starting to care about saving him too. Daniel Rossi had been watching Clara's apartment for 2 hours when he finally spotted them. 2 men in a black sedan. Too obvious to be cops. Too professional to be random. They watched the building with the stillness of predators, and Daniel knew exactly what they were. Moretti's men. His little sister was under surveillance by the Mafia. The nightmare he'd spent 8 years trying to prevent had finally arrived. He drove away before they spotted him, his mind racing. This was his fault. All of it. If he'd never gotten involved with Alessandro's organization years ago, if he'd never betrayed them, if he'd just stayed clean, Clara would be safe now. But she wasn't safe. She was a pawn in a game she didn't even know she was playing. Daniel pulled into a parking garage and sat in the darkness, his hands shaking on the wheel. He needed help. He needed someone who could get Clara out of this mess before it consumed her. He scrolled through his contacts and stopped at a name he'd saved 3 years ago, Rocco Dinelli. They'd worked together briefly when Daniel was a runner. Rocco had been lower level then, hungry and ambitious, but not cruel. He'd even warned Daniel once that Marco was getting suspicious. If anyone in Moretti's crew might help him now, it would be Rocco. Daniel dialed before he could talk himself out of it. Yeah. Rocco's voice was cautious. It's Daniel Rossi. I need to talk. A pause. Rossi. Been a long time. Heard you went straight. I did. But now there's a problem. My sister. She's gotten tangled up with your boss. I need to get her out. The waitress, Rocco's tone shifted. Interested now. Clara, right? Pretty girl. Moretti's new obsession. She doesn't know what she's gotten into. I need help getting her somewhere safe, away from all this. And you're calling me why? Because you're smart. Because you know how this world works, Daniel's voice cracked. Because you have a sister too. You told me about her once. Remember? Silence. Then, meet me tomorrow night. 10 p.m. The old warehouse on Porter Street. Come alone. Thank you, Rocco. I swear I'll. Don't thank me yet, Rocco hung up. Daniel sagged in his seat, relief flooding through him. Rocco would help. He had to. In his penthouse, Rocco smiled as he ended the call. Then, he dialed Tommy Calabrese. The brother just took the bait. That same evening, Clara was closing the restaurant when Alessandro walked in. We're closed, she said reflexively, then recognized him. Her pulse quickened. You shouldn't keep coming here. People will talk more than they already do. Let them talk. Alessandro locked the door behind him. I needed to see you. Something in his voice made her set down the dish towel. He looked different tonight, tired, his tie loosened, a weariness in his eyes she hadn't seen before.
Human.
What's wrong? Everything. He crossed to the bar, poured himself a scotch without asking permission. My men are questioning me. My lieutenant is betraying me. My enemies are circling. And at the center of it all is you. Clara's chest tightened. Then let me go. Stop protecting me. Stop paying for treatments. I can't. Why not? Because you're the first thing I've cared about in 12 years that isn't business or revenge or power. The confession tumbled out like he couldn't hold it back anymore. You unsettle me, Clara. You make me question everything I've built. Everything I am. She moved closer, her cane clicking softly.
I'm nobody.
Just a broken waitress. You're not broken. You're surviving. He turned to face her, and the raw emotion in his eyes stole her breath. When you fell that day, I saw Lucia. But every time since, I've seen you. Just you. And that terrifies me more than any enemy ever has. Because you don't know how to care about someone without it being about your sister? Because I don't know how to care about someone without destroying them. His voice dropped to barely a whisper. Everyone I've ever loved ends up dead or damaged. My sister. My mother. Even my enemies' families. I've orphaned children, widowed women. Death follows me, Clara. And now it's following you. Clara set down her cane, stepping closer, without support. Her leg protested, but she ignored it. Then why not walk away? Let me live my life. Because I'm selfish. Alessandro's hand came up, almost touching her face, then dropped. Because seeing you get stronger, watching you walk a little easier each week, hearing you laugh with that girl Maria, it makes me feel human again. And I've been a monster for so long I forgot what that felt like. The air between them crackled with tension. You're not a monster, Clara whispered. Yes, I am. I've killed people.
Everth.
You saved my restaurant. You're giving me my life back. You protected Maria. She reached out, her fingers brushing his hand. Monsters don't cry when they talk about their sisters. Alessandro's fingers closed around hers. His touch was warm, careful, like he was afraid she'd shatter. You make me want to be better. That's dangerous for both of us. Maybe some dangers are worth it. They stood there, hands linked, the empty restaurant around them feeling like the only safe place in the world. Alessandro's thumb traced circles on her palm, and Clara felt heat spread through her body that had nothing to do with fear. Clara, his voice was rough. I know she didn't know. This was insane. He was Mafia. She was nobody. This could only end in blood and tears. But when he looked at her like that, like she was precious, like she mattered, like she was something worth protecting, she couldn't remember why she should care about the inevitable ending. I should go, Alessandro said, but he didn't move. Yes, Clara agreed, but she didn't step back. His phone buzzed. He ignored it. It buzzed again, insistent. With a curse, he pulled it out. His expression darkened as he read the message. I have to handle something. What's wrong? Nothing you need to worry about, but his jaw was tight. Remember what I said. Stay alert. Don't trust anyone. And Clara? He looked at her one more time, and she saw fear in his eyes. Actual fear. No matter what happens, know that I... He stopped himself. Just be careful. Then he was gone, leaving Clara alone with her racing heart and the lingering warmth of his hand in hers. Outside, Alessandro read Vinny's text again. Calabrese crew moving assets. Something's happening. Timeline accelerated. They were coming for her.
Soon.
Alessandro made a call as he climbed into his SUV. Double the guards. I want 8 men on her. And find out what the Calabrese family is planning. I don't care what it costs. He'd burn the whole city down before he let them touch her. Across town, Rocco hung up with Tommy Calabrese and smiled. Tomorrow night, the brother would lead them right to her. And Alessandro Moretti's empire would finally crumble. Clara's Wednesday physical therapy session ran late. Dr. Chen had been thrilled with her progress. She'd walked 15 feet without her cane during the evaluation. 15 feet of pain and trembling muscles, but 15 feet of freedom. Clara left the clinic at 8:47 p.m. with tears of joy in her eyes and her cane feeling lighter in her hand. The street was quieter than usual. Most businesses had closed. The parking lot was poorly lit, half the overhead lights flickering or dead. Clara fumbled for her phone to call a cab when she heard the footsteps. 3 men emerged from behind a van. Not Alessandro's men. She'd learned to recognize his guards by now. These were different. Harder. Predatory. Clara Rossi? The one in front smiled. He had a scar running down his neck. Someone wants to talk to you. Clara's heart slammed into her throat. I don't know you, but we know you. We know you're special to Alessandro Moretti. He moved closer. That makes you special to us too. Clara backed up, gripping her cane. Stay away from me. Can't do that, sweetheart. Boss's orders. Skarnek nodded to the others. Grab her. They lunged. Clara swung her cane hard, catching one man across the face. He yelped, stumbling back. But her bad leg buckled with emotion, and she nearly fell. The second man grabbed her arm. She screamed, twisting away, but her injury made her slow, weak. His grip was iron. Little fighter, Skarnek laughed. Moretti likes them with spirit. A car screeched around the corner, high beams blazing. 2 men erupted from the vehicle before it fully stopped, Alessandro's guards. Clara recognized one of them, Sal, who'd been following her for days. Let her go. Sal's gun was already drawn. Skarnek pulled out his own weapon, using Clara as a shield. Back off. This is Calabrese business. There's no Calabrese business with her. Everything happened at once. The man holding Clara yanked her harder, trying to drag her toward the van. Pain exploded through her spine. She screamed, her leg giving out completely. She fell to her knees on the pavement, agony white-hot. Gunshots cracked through the air. Sal fired, hitting the man who'd been holding Clara. He dropped with a grunt, blood spreading across his shoulder. The third attacker returned fire, and Clara heard the bullet ping off metal somewhere behind her. She tried to crawl away, but her leg wouldn't cooperate. The world spun in pain and terror. More cars arrived, too many to count. Doors slammed. Men shouted in Italian. The fight escalated into chaos, fists, gunfire, the sickening sound of bone meeting bone. Then a voice cut through everything like a blade. "Where is she?" "Alessandro." Clara looked up through tears and saw him striding through the carnage like an avenging angel. His suit jacket was gone, his white shirt sleeves rolled up, and there was something absolutely terrifying in his eyes. "Boss, she's here, she's okay," Sal started. Alessandro's gaze found Clara on the ground, saw her clutching her leg, saw the blood on her palms from where she'd scraped them raw on the pavement. His expression went from fury to murderous. He turned to Skarnek, who was backing toward the van. "You touched her." "We were just following orders." Alessandro moved so fast Clara barely saw it. One moment, he was 10 feet away. The next, his fist connected with Skarnek's jaw with a crack that made Clara flinch. The man went down hard. Alessandro didn't stop. He hauled Skarnek up by his collar and slammed him against the van once, twice, 3 times. "Who sent you?" Each word punctuated with violence. "Calabrese, Tommy Calabrese," Skarnek choked out. "We were just supposed to grab her, bring her." "Where?" "Warehouse on Porter Street. Please, I'm just following." Alessandro hit him again, and this time the man went limp. Alessandro dropped him and turned to his men. "2 of you take him.
Keep him alive.
I want him to tell Tommy exactly what happens when you touch what's mine." Then he was kneeling beside Clara. His hands were gentle, impossibly gentle, checking her for injuries. "Where does it hurt?" "My leg, I fell." Clara was shaking so hard, she could barely speak. "They were going to take me. But they didn't." "You're safe now," his voice was soft, meant only for her, completely different from the rage he'd just displayed. "Can you stand?" "I don't know." He scooped her up before she could protest, lifting her like she weighed nothing. Clara's arms went around his neck instinctively. This close, she could feel his heart hammering, could smell gunpowder and cologne, and something uniquely him. "The clinic," she started. "Forget the clinic. I'm taking you somewhere safe." He carried her to his SUV, his men forming a protective circle around them. One of the attackers was dead. Another was being loaded into a car, unconscious. The third was bleeding but conscious, zip-tied and shoved into the back of another vehicle. Alessandro settled Clara in the passenger seat, his hands checking her over one more time. "You're sure you're not seriously hurt?" "Just my leg." "Same old injury." She tried to laugh, but it came out as a sob. "This is insane. This is completely insane." "I know." His hand cupped her face, thumb brushing away tears.
"I'm sorry."
"God, Clara, I'm so sorry. I should have had more men on you. I should have." "You saved me." She grabbed his wrist, holding his hand against her cheek. "If your men hadn't been here."
"Don't."
"Don't think about it," but his jaw was rigid, his eyes haunted. "This is my fault. They came after you because of me." "Did you pull the trigger? Did you give the order?" Clara's voice steadied with anger.
"No."
"Someone else did this. Someone evil. Don't you dare take responsibility for their choices." Alessandro stared at her like she'd just said something in a foreign language. Then he leaned forward and pressed his forehead to hers, his eyes closed. "You should hate me." "I should," Clara whispered. "But I don't." A car horn broke the moment. Vinny approached the window. "Boss, we need to move. Police will be here soon." Alessandro pulled back, his expression hardening back into the cold mask. "Take her to the safe house. Make sure Dr. Chin meets us there to check her over." "Where are you going?" Clara asked. "To have a conversation with Tommy Calabrese. The way he said it made Clara's blood run cold. Alessandro. Stay safe, Clara. That's all I ask. He closed her door and was gone, climbing into another vehicle. As they drove away, Clara watched him through the rear window, standing in the parking lot surrounded by his men, blood on his hands and murder in his eyes. She'd always known he was dangerous. But tonight, she'd seen exactly how dangerous and how far he'd go to protect her. The truly terrifying part? She wasn't sure if that should scare her or make her feel safer than she'd ever felt in her life. The safe house was a penthouse apartment in a building Alessandro owned. Clean, secure, and empty except for Clara, 2 guards, and Dr. Chen, who pronounced her bruised but not seriously injured. Clara was sitting on the leather couch with an ice pack on her knee when Alessandro returned 3 hours later. His knuckles were split and bloody. His expression was carved from stone. Behind him, 2 of his men dragged someone. Daniel. Clara's ice pack fell to the floor. Danny? What's going on? Tell her, Alessandro said coldly. Tell your sister what you did. Daniel's face was pale, his eyes red-rimmed. One eye was swelling shut. Someone had hit him. Clara, I'm sorry. I was trying to help. He set you up. Alessandro's voice could cut glass. He contacted my lieutenant, Rocco, and asked for help getting you to safety. Rocco used that information to arrange tonight's attack. Clara's world tilted.
No.
Danny wouldn't. I didn't know. Daniel's voice cracked. I swear, Clara, I thought Rocco would help. I thought he could get you away from all this. I didn't know he'd. A sob escaped him. I'm so sorry. You're sorry? Alessandro moved closer, his rage barely contained. She almost died tonight. They were going to use her to destroy me. And you handed them the perfect opportunity. I was trying to protect her from you. Daniel shouted. From the Mafia, from this life, from what, exactly? Alessandro's voice dropped dangerously low. From the man paying for her medical treatment? From the guards keeping her alive? Or maybe from the monster you helped create when you sold intelligence to my enemies 8 years ago? Clara's breath caught. What? Daniel's face went white. You didn't think I knew? Alessandro circled him like a predator. Daniel Rossi. Low-level runner for my organization. Worked under Marco's crew in 2017 and 2018. Then started selling shipment schedules and protection lists to the Calabrese family. Cost me 3 men and $250,000 in product. Danny, Clara's voice was barely a whisper. You told me you worked construction. You said. I lied. Daniel couldn't look at her. I was young and stupid and desperate for money. I got in with Moretti's crew, and when I realized what I'd done, I tried to get out. The Calabrese family offered me money for information, and I took it. Tears streamed down his face. Then Mom and Dad died, and you were only 16, and I had to raise you. Moretti's people found out about the betrayal. They were going to kill me. I should have killed you, Alessandro said flatly. But Marco decided an orphaned 16-year-old girl was punishment enough. We let you live on the condition you never entered our territory, never touched our business again. You agreed. I kept that agreement. Daniel's voice rose desperately. For 8 years, I stayed away. I went legitimate. I raised Clara, put her through nursing school, gave her a clean life away from all this. I kept my word. Until tonight, Alessandro grabbed Daniel by the collar, yanking him close. You contacted Rocco. You brought my betrayer and my enemy together. You gave them exactly what they needed to hurt Clara. I didn't know Rocco was dirty. You didn't know because you've been out of the game. Alessandro shoved him back. But you knew enough to know contacting any of my men was a risk. You did it anyway. And she paid the price. Clara stood, her legs screaming in protest. Stop. Both of you, just stop. Alessandro and Daniel turned to look at her. Alessandro. Her voice shook but held firm. You've known about Danny's past for how long? 5 days. And you didn't tell me. I was protecting you.
No.
You were making decisions for me. Clara's eyes blazed. You think I'm too weak to handle the truth? Too fragile. That's not. And you. She turned to Daniel, tears streaming down her face. You lied to me for 8 years. Let me believe you were just some construction worker. Let me think we were safe, normal, clean. I built my whole life on a lie. Clara, I was protecting you. Stop protecting me. The shout tore from her throat. Both of you. I'm not a child. I'm not some fragile thing that needs to be wrapped in cotton wool. I'm a grown woman who deserves the truth, even when it's ugly. Silence fell over the room. Clara wiped her eyes roughly. Danny, you were young and scared, and you made a mistake. I understand that. But you should have told me. You should have trusted me with the truth. I know. I'm sorry. She turned to Alessandro.
And you?
You knew my brother betrayed you, and you protected me anyway.
Why?
Because you're not responsible for his sins. But you could have told me. You should have. She met his eyes. If this, whatever this is between us, is going to be real, it has to be honest. Even when the truth is hard. Alessandro's jaw worked. You're right. Clara turned back to Daniel. Get out. Go home. Think about what you've done, and how you're going to fix this. Clara. I'll call you when I'm ready to talk. Until then, I need space, her voice cracked. From both of you. Alessandro nodded to his men. They escorted Daniel out, surprisingly gentle. After the door closed, Alessandro and Clara stood in tense silence. Rocco's dead, Alessandro said quietly. I took care of it myself. Made it public. My other lieutenants understand now that betrayal, any betrayal, ends the same way. But mercy for those who deserve it isn't weakness, he paused. Your brother deserved mercy. Because of you. Thank you. I didn't do it for thanks. I know. Clara moved closer despite everything. You did it because you're not the monster you pretend to be. Alessandro's hand came up, cupping her face. I killed a man tonight. Probably will kill more before this is over. I know. She didn't flinch away. But you also let my brother live when everything in your world said you should kill him. That has to count for something. In my world, it counts as weakness. In mine, Clara whispered, it counts as strength. His thumb traced her cheekbone. You terrify me, Clara Rossi.
Good.
You terrify me too, she smiled despite everything. Maybe that means we're even. For the first time that night, Alessandro almost smiled. Outside in the hallway, Marco spoke to Vinny in low tones. He spared the traitor's brother. Killed Rocco, without hesitation. The men are talking. Let them talk, Vinny said. They saw what happened to Rocco. They'll fall in line.
Marco nodded slowly.
Maybe the boss isn't weak. Maybe he's just different now. Is that better or worse? Marco looked through the door at Alessandro, watching Clara with an expression he'd never seen on his boss's face. Honestly, I have no idea. 2 weeks after the attack, Clara stood in Madison Street Physical Therapy Center, holding onto parallel bars while Dr. Chen watched with a clipboard. Ready?
Dr. Chen asked.
Clara nodded, her heart pounding. She released the bars. Then she walked.
No cane.
No support. Just her own 2 legs carrying her forward, 1 step, 2 steps, 5, 10. The pain was there, dull and familiar, but manageable. Her gait wasn't perfect. Her left leg still dragged, slightly. But she was walking. 15 steps. 20. All the way to the end of the bars. Oh my God, tears streamed down Clara's face. I'm doing it. You're doing it. Dr. Chen laughed. Clara, this is remarkable progress. 6 more months of therapy and you might not need the cane at all except for long distances. After the session, Clara didn't call for a car. She walked, slowly, carefully, to the address Alessandro had given her. His office building. The legitimate one he used for business meetings, not the headquarters where blood got spilled. The receptionist recognized her immediately. Ms. Rossi. Mr. Moretti said to send you right up. 20th floor. The elevator ride felt endless. Clara's reflection stared back at her from the polished doors, a woman who looked stronger than she felt, braver than she'd been 3 weeks ago. The doors opened to a reception area, with floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the city. Alessandro stood with his back to her, phone to his ear, speaking rapid Italian. He turned when he heard her footsteps. His eyes widened. "I'll call you back." He ended the call without waiting for a response. "Clara, you walked here." All the way from the clinic, she couldn't stop smiling.
No gané.
Dr. Chin says 6 more months, and I might not need it at all. Something flickered across his face. Pride, relief, something deeper she couldn't name. "That's incredible. It's because of you." Clara moved closer. "The treatments, the therapy, the best doctor's money can buy. You gave me my life back. You did the work. The pain, the exercises, the determination. That was all you. But you gave me the chance." She stopped a few feet away. "I came to thank you. And to tell you something." Alessandro's expression guarded itself. "What?" "I know who you are. What you do. The violence, the criminal empire, all of it." Clara's voice was steady. "I'm not naive enough to think loving you changes that." His breath caught. "Loving me?" "Yes." She met his eyes without flinching. "Somewhere between you paying my restaurant's debt and you killing a man to protect me, I fell in love with you. It's terrifying and probably stupid, but it's true." Alessandro closed the distance between them in 2 strides. "Clara,
I'm not asking you to change.
I'm not asking you to leave your world." Her hand found his. "I'm just asking you to let me in. The real you. Not the monster you show everyone else. Not the man who thinks he has to carry Lucia's ghost forever. Just."
Alessandro.
His forehead pressed to hers, his eyes closed. "You deserve better than me. Maybe. But I don't want better. I want you." She squeezed his hand. "You once told me you don't want me to owe you. So, I'm choosing this. Choosing you. Not out of debt or gratitude or fear. Just because when I look at you, I see a man who's capable of terrible things but chooses mercy when it matters. That's enough for me." "It shouldn't be enough." "But it is." Clara pulled back to look at him. "You can't ignore what I stirred in you. You said that yourself. Well, you can't ignore what you stirred in me either. You made me want to fight again.
To heal. To hope."
That's not nothing." Alessandro's hands cupped her face like she was something precious. "I can't promise you safety. My enemies will always look at you as a weakness. Then we'll face them together. I can't promise I'll ever be the man you deserve. I don't want the man I deserve. I want the man I choose." Clara smiled through her tears. "And I choose you, Alessandro Moretti. All of you. Even the dark parts. Especially the dark parts. Because those dark parts are trying so damn hard to protect something good." He kissed her then, gentle, reverent, like he was afraid she'd disappear. Clara melted into him, her arms around his neck, letting herself fall completely. When they finally broke apart, Alessandro rested his forehead against hers. "I love you. God help me. Clara, I love you more than I've ever loved anything except Lucia." "I know," she smiled. "And I love you back. We'll figure out the rest." They stood there in the sunlight, 2 broken people who'd somehow made each other whole. A mafia boss who'd learned that mercy wasn't weakness. A woman who'd learned that strength came in unexpected forms. Outside, the city hummed with life. Dangerous, complicated, beautiful. And for the first time in 12 years, Alessandro Moretti looked at his world and felt something other than emptiness. He felt hope. Clara took his hand. "Walk with me?" "Where?" "Anywhere. Everywhere," she grinned. "I'm just getting used to this whole walking thing. Might as well show off." Alessandro laughed, a real laugh, genuine and warm, and let her lead him toward whatever came next. Behind them, through the window, the city stretched endlessly. Ahead of them lay danger, enemies, complications neither could predict. But they'd face it together, the devil and his waitress, walking forward into an uncertain future. And somehow, impossibly, that was enough.